2, 1. We are at the table. I will be sitting here with Jennine today, but we've been off for about 3-4 weeks. A lot has happened at the church. We've had VBX, week-long of VBX. That was awesome. Then we went right into Backyard Bash, and that was always fun. That's good. And then that Monday following that, we tore apart the upstairs offices over the children's ministry office and turned that into our new middle school room. That's going to be our big space for the middle school to have their own kind of spot to have. And you'll learn more about that in the upcoming sermons that we have coming up. And I want to introduce Jennine first. So Jennine Ulibarri, most importantly, my mother-in-law. Tell me a little bit about your history. How'd you get here, and what do you do here?
Okay, well, David and I joined La Casa in 1984, and so we've been members for many years. In 1992, I actually taught preschool for 1 year at our preschool here. And then Pastor Garman tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to join the staff. And so my first position here was, my title was Special Events Director. And I actually ran large events on the campus, such as Journey to Bethlehem, and I actually was in charge of VBX. We also did the church picnic and just several large events during the year. And then 17 years ago, he tapped me on the shoulder again and said, "Would you start a women's ministry?" And he said, "What do you need to be able to do that?" So he actually sent me to the Billy Graham Training Center in Asheville, North Carolina, and I got to attend a seminar on how to start a women's ministry, and I still use a lot of those principles today. And then when I got back, he asked me, "What do you see that you need for a women's ministry?" And I said, "Well, we need leaders." So we started a program called Becoming a Leading Lady and did that for about 10 years and raised up lots of leaders in the church. And then my next thing was, I said, "We need a mom's ministry." And Pastor Garman responded, "Oh, we do lots for moms." And I said, "No," because my kids were little then. And I said, we don't do a lot for moms, we do a lot for kids." And so we started with MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers, and that was for moms that have kids 0 to 5. And then as we continued, I literally had moms thinking about having another baby so they could stay in the MOMS program. So we knew we needed to add to that. So we started the MOMSnMORE ministry for moms with elementary age. And then those progressed up, and we had moms say, "Hey, I want something for teens." And we started Moms with Teens program about 5 years ago. Last year we had about 300 moms in our moms ministry. And then 2 years ago, we saw the need for married people. So we added married people to the Girlfriends Ministry. And we currently, today, we have an event this Saturday, and we have 127 people signed up. And so we're really excited because that's the most people we've ever had attend.
And this is your married people.
This is the married people, right.
So when we break it down, you started up with preschool.
Correct.
And then you jumped into
Special events.
And so a lot of the older events that you've done back then, we're slowly trying to bring back with like the picnics, and VBX obviously is still sticking around, but it's amazing to see that still sticks,
right,
through the years. And so you're looking, 20 years ago these things exist, and we're trying to get that back. And some of that, I think, is just having that connection again.
Right. And I would say a lot
families.
of those roles that I played here at church and I shouldn't say roles, but the jobs that I had, like the preschool and VBX, actually really prepared me for doing women's ministry because I knew a lot about little kids and childcare and all of that. So that really helped me in my journey to be women's ministry director.
So before getting to the church, what were you doing?
I was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
To Amy and Stacy, and
Yes.
I loved that I got to stay home with them when they were little.
So you saw more of the need too, just from being at home and
Yes.
being with the kids, and you were connected to the church, and so it was probably an easy transition to start offering these things.
Yes.
Because you recognized it directly.
And again, that training that I had in Asheville, North Carolina was invaluable because that really helped me know the steps I needed to take.
Equipped you to that,
Yeah.
that next thing.
Yeah.
So give me some of the history of the church. Because how long have you been at La Casa?
We joined in 1984, and we were still on Thunderbird Road, at the old church. That's where we started. And then I got the joy of seeing this church actually being built. We did a large event here with nothing on the property, and actually outlined the sanctuary with candles, and had a helicopter fly over and take a picture. And I have that. I should have brought that picture. I have that picture in my office. And so I've seen this campus being built from the ground, literally the ground up.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I think Pastor Garman was here. I mean, he started this church and moved it up here to Bell Road, and then now, of course, Pastor Jeff is the senior pastor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been a big change, even big change in the last 3-4 years that I've been here, and seeing how things have grown. And we've adapted the campus a little bit more for families. We've changed over some classrooms, and we've did the gathering place, and we've added a lot of family areas, and we hope to keep adding more family areas. And I think a big part of that is seeing what needs we have, especially when you said you have married people starting, and you needed more space for childcare.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to bring more of that family element back and it's cool to see. When you look at the biggest change, what's the biggest change you've seen since you started doing a women's ministry? First, before you got into MOPS, what was the biggest change you've noticed?
I think it's because when this was first built, we used to worship in the gathering place now called, but it was called the Sanctinasium.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a sanctuary, but also we did things like eat in there. And so to see the sanctuary built was really incredible, and to have that space for worship. But then, as you said, we're trying to attract younger families, so it's really neat that they've changed that Sanctinasium into a worship area for contemporary service. So those are some of the bigger changes that I think I've seen over time. I've seen a lot of people come and go, people who have worked here and retired. The only thing that doesn't change is change, so change is good.
Mm-hmm. No, change is good.
Yeah.
And you got to constantly be adapting to what the community is doing, and that's always been a big thing, is you notice what the community wants. And so if you drive by our road, you see signs up for different activities and it's not just limited to Sunday service. There's something always going on here. Generations, you've seen generations of families come through, and you probably see, grandparents, even great-grandparents. And how does that feel to see, maybe a mom that started already being a grandmother now, and then watching the families? How does that feel to see that?
You start to think of, what we hope people think of La Casa, it's their family. It is their family. So when you see generations attending together, and that would be my family, because David and I are grandparents, and then you and Stacy and Amy and John and Owen and Reese and Caius and Ash and Claire, it's great to see them all attending church here and being part of the family. What's hard is when people move away, or when people die, or when people leave the church, because you kind of feel like you've lost part of your family. But it's great to see generations of people worshiping together. Yeah.
There was during VBX, there was an interesting thing. Logan came up to me, and he's like, Ash might be my daughter, and your granddaughter, and Emmy were walking through through the campus, and they see it through different eyes, I think, like growing up. Like, so, Amy and Stacy probably see the campus a lot different than a normal family who just attends on Sundays or things like that. Like, Ash knows where the storage units are and where we store things, and she sees things differently. So it's definitely different to see the church differently when you're here, like, involved in ministry. Your family grows up here. So
this church is like home to my
just like your
my
house.
kids. Yeah.
Well, and you know every nook and cranny of the church,
and I do.
And so we kind of I'm still finding spots in the church.
I actually we had a retreat with my girlfriend's staff, and we actually went on a scavenger hunt, and I showed them all the secret compartments and places that most people don't know. And they loved it. They loved doing that because they had no idea. So that was fun.
Yeah, and it has to be. It is different to see it that way, and that's what Logan said. Like, they just kind of walk around like it's their house. I'm like, well, they spend a lot of time here, and so when you were raising, Amy and Stacy, that you'd have them here sometimes too with you, so they got to see kind of what you were doing in ministry.
Correct.
And they got to see the church. And seen Pastor Garman as he's family.
Right.
He's part of, so they were kind of raised into it. And Pastor Jeff, now when the kids go in there, they get M&Ms in his office, and
Right.
they go through the lounge area and get snacks and Thursday donuts. That's kind of how our family grows up in this.
Well, and I think what's neat about a church is it's a like-minded community that is going to love your kids and love on you too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the neat thing that's the beauty of a church community.
Yeah, and ours, because ours functions at such a level of Monday through Monday. Like
Right.
We're here all week, and so there's always something going on here. So, what are the things you see in the future for, let's say, women's ministry in general, and beyond that, going into MOPS and going into as the kids grow older and they get into college years and stuff? Where do you see that transition going with women's ministry?
It would be neat to do maybe a grandparenting ministry, because grandparents play a bigger role than ever in watching children. I mean, a lot of children are living with their grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it'd be neat to maybe do something with single moms, because that's the largest growing statistic in our country. And those moms, that's a tough road, raising kids by yourself. So I think ministry, I would want to do that maybe in the off weeks, like do because in mom's ministry, the only criteria you have is that you're a mom. We don't care if you're married, divorced,
and that's
single.
Something really good to
Right.
tell people, because
Right.
I think they think, well, I have to be
married,
stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Because that's something that I think is really good. You understand that moms work, even if they're married, single. You understand they work, so you offer an evening MOPS, or you understand that some moms don't have the ability to leave during the day.
Correct.
To go do so. That's a really important thing.
Yep.
Is that MOPS is not just for.
The only criteria is you have to be a mom.
No.
That's it.
And you don't age out.
Right.
You can you attend.
You can stay through when your last child goes off to college, and then we usually tap them on the shoulder and ask them to be a mentor to the other moms.
So explain a mentor mom to someone who's.
Okay, a mentor mom. So at every table in Mom's Ministry, we have somebody, and we like to say, who's a little further down the road than you are. And what their job is they make sure that they just touch base with their moms before every meeting, make sure things are going well. They are there for advice, but we always tell them, you don't have to know the answers to everything. If you don't know the answer, just say you don't know. But you are further down the road, so you may have experienced some things that can help these moms. And then they lead table discussions during our moms meeting, and it just helps with the community of that group.
And they're offering that wisdom of.
Right.
They've been through the screaming 2-year-olds and the hard teenagers and
Correct.
all the stuff that comes as you're a parent, and you learn slowly. So and one thing you said was grandparents, offering them something, and that's a huge thing we have out here, because even VBX, you saw grandparents bringing their kids to VBX, grandparents volunteering.
Right.
The generations as age, everyone has a role, and so trying to give everyone kind of a role to have is always a very beneficial thing.
Right.
You also have a Bible study that you
Correct.
guys you do.
I always do one in the summertime, and it's more lighthearted and no homework. And then I do one in the fall and one in the spring. And this fall we're going to be studying Job.
Oh, awesome.
And so I'm excited about that, and I've really enjoyed doing that study. And the other thing in the Girlfriends Ministry that I didn't mention is we also have what we call G groups. And those are girlfriend groups, and they're like-minded groups. So when I say like-minded, is like, for instance, one group really likes to go to the movies, so that's what they do. They go to the movies. Another group likes to quilt, and they quilt. And again, it forms community, their own little community. We have about 12 G groups, and they meet once a month. And the thing I love about the G groups is anytime you join the church, whatever month you join the church, there is something that you could plug into right away if you wanted to.
And you meet that specific need. So if someone's into something, you have something for it. If not, you create it. You can have it.
Correct. We also have a breakaway weekend in January that we go up to Flagstaff, Little America. Usually we have over 100 women that go on that, and that's a great weekend, and a great weekend to really get to know people on a deeper level. as opposed to, the moms meetings, because you're just together for a couple hours. And it's amazing what you learn from people when you spend an entire weekend with them. So that's a great event also.
Do you feel like people open up more when they're off?
Yes.
In a place? Yeah. It's in Sunday church is always Sunday. Like, it feels like you're very Sunday church. And that was one thing we've been trying to break away, is when you get here to relax, to hang around for a little bit and talk and create some of that fellowship outside of just showing up for church and leaving within that hour.
Right.
And but we've always noticed that getting off campus has changed the way people act and feel and talk, and the comfort level comes down. And it's good because you're still connecting with the church.
Correct.
And the people in your community. And it's easy to invite people that aren't coming to church.
Right.
And so MOPS does a really good job of that. You are not, so that's another good thing to always bring up. You don't just do church. It's anyone from the community can come into MOPS. It's open to, you don't have to attend church. You don't have to be a member. It's something offered.
Well, and I guess I would say, Eddie, my take on that is I would never turn anybody away from something that we offer at church. Matter of fact, for married people, we, again, have 65 children this Saturday night, and we could have made the decision to say, okay, we're going to close it, but we didn't. We're going to open up another room because we want to be accepting of people, and I would never want to tell somebody, well, we don't have room for you, because that's not very hospitable.
It's not very Christian.
Right.
Yeah, it's not very Christian either. It's open chair, and
right. You're always welcome.
Always invited to my table.
Right.
And I think that's a smart way to function, because if you're reaching someone, no matter how you're reaching them, it's worth it. Right. And they may never attend the church, but they might find that one thing that works for them. Yeah.
You never know.
And you never stop offering that to them.
Right.
You never stop offering that family to them, because people seek that in our community. As big as we've got, or as small of a town as we are in, people seek that. They want that community, they want that friendship, and they want that. And the safest place to come, hopefully, is your church.
And I think in current times right now, we have access to so much social media, but people are isolated more than ever. So they need that community. They need to be able to look you in the eye and, talk. And a lot of people don't have that because they're missing it. So it's great that the church can offer that.
So it's hard to have conversation when you're distracted all the time.
Right.
And it's hard to have relationships when you're distracted all the time. And that's a big thing. When you go out in public, you don't see people talking or communicating, and it's
Well, the other day
difficult.
I went to Starbucks, and I pulled up, and they gave me my tea, and I said to the gal, well, she said, how are you? And I responded back, and I said to her, and how are you today? And it was like I didn't even say anything. She wasn't even paying attention to it. It was just rote. It was just rote talking to me.
It's your response.
Right.
It's just the response.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's so sad. And I've never been a barista at Starbucks, so maybe you get, tired, but this was early in the morning.
Yeah, it could be a bad day or whatever, but
right.
It's interesting that people don't know how to respond to hi, how are you?
Right.
And you can really shock someone if you just say hi to
Stop
them.
and listen.
I know, and people almost don't know why you're doing it, but they would love to hear that. And it's a different world when you get out into the world.
Right.
Or it's there's the Instagram or the social media life, which is everything looks really good from afar, or everything looks very interesting from afar. But when it's so much better, just get out and
talk to people.
Do life. Yeah, right. Talk to people. Now that's a good point. With technology and everything that's changed, what do you think has changed with church first, and then ministries and stuff like that? What is, if you go back 20 years ago?
I'd say paper. We used to have a lot of paper, and now we're computerized, which is nice. And
it's not all bad.
No, it's not all bad. I think there's a lot of great things about technology. I think it keeps track of things much better for us. All the medical information you need on kids, it's all computerized, so you just get a printout. So that's made life a lot easier with technology, and just what you can do with technology is amazing.
It's all in one spot.
Right.
Yeah, and we've come to a point where everything is. We were just wiring up the refuge room for middle school, and it's amazing. Everything was wireless, and everything is like on a small little board that we can control everything with, a few buttons. It's great to see. That's probably a great change. Now the negative of it.
I think, again, distraction. I saw something the other day that said people touch their phone over 2,000 times a day. So people are very distracted. And again, I, I, I don't know. What do you think?
My biggest thing, I think it's weird, is going to dinner or going to talk to someone and you can't put the phone away, or you can't. Even the conversation of, did you see so-and-so on Facebook, or did you see what someone did on Instagram? It's weird, because even when you put it all away, you're still on it.
Still on it.
But you're thinking about it, or you're worried about it, or...
Well, and I think there's not any surprises very much anymore, because like it used to be a time where I can remember telling Amy and Stacy, like when you and Stacy were engaged, I told Stacy, you need to call your grandmother.
Yeah, we had a list of people
before you post it, because you owe them that, to tell them personally, and everything is just put on Facebook, and so everybody knows about it. And a lot of times I think it's just sad that we don't have that element of, Granny, guess what? I'm engaged, and have that conversation.
And we forget to respect that generation of, they still write letters, or they still call on the phone, and I'm 38, so I'm right in the middle of like the two worlds, because we had phones and we communicated differently, and then all of a sudden we were given this technology, and it was my kids grew up only with the technology.
Right.
They were texting, like they learned how to text. They don't learn like simple writing skills as much as they learn to type. So it is different. There's a lot of good benefits, but it's definitely hard to turn it off and function normally. One thing I've always noticed with people is that we have a great technology. Like my Bible is on my phone, which is amazing. There's translations. It reads to me. There's still something good about having paper. There's still something good about reading the Bible first. It's out of the book and looking up verses. But the technology is also good for the fact that it's easily available anywhere you go.
Well, I feel like people are not going to know whether a book is in the Old Testament or the New Testament, because you can just pull it up on your computer. You don't have to look. And so, I think that's a skill that's going to go away, that people don't know whether it's Old Testament or New Testament.
Well, and people are changing everything. They want to change everything. So I was joking with Stacy last night. I told her they're probably going to try to make the Bible alphabetical at one point.
Probably.
Because they just want to make it easy.
Right.
And people want to just change something.
Right.
And so, no, they don't. They don't want to look up books in the Bible. They want the song. Like the kids know the song to keep the Bible in check. They know how many books are in the Bible. It's changing, and it's different. And the technology is always going to be there. It's just going to keep growing, and hopefully we utilize it for the right reasons. And I like the point you said, generations are different. So we need to learn to tell people first.
Right.
And it's kind of a good feeling to hear it than just to see it.
Well, like in the moms ministry, I have mentor moms that don't text. So I can't text them. So I have to figure out how to reach them, either by email or personally call them. And then there's a big group that I can text, but you do have to look at what, people...
Is it a home phone still? And is it that?
And in the moms ministry, I actually asked the mentor moms to ask their moms what's the best way to reach them, and what day do you want me to text you? Because we want to make it, easy on the moms and the mentor mom too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're balancing with that the other day, because Ash is 12 and she's in the middle school band. And I think like 40 texts came through in 20 minutes from that's how they communicate. But I was surprised, because I asked her the other day, have you talked to Emmy? And she said, yeah, I called her and we talked for like 20 minutes.
Oh, that's
so
good.
She still has that. But I told Stacy, I'm like, man, they text. And I'm in it. I read. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of text. But that's the communication we've gotten to. Yeah. And it probably was annoying with me growing up, and we're on the phone. Like my mom was probably like, all he does is talk on that phone. But
if you think about it, Eddie, I grew up with the phone on the wall.
Oh, yeah, with the long cord, yeah.
And I'm in the closet with the receiver, because that's what we had, and I talked on the phone all the time too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just part of it.
It's a different form of annoying. Right. Like it's just as different from what we did, and just always evolves. So this weekend, you have something coming up. And what do you got going this weekend?
Okay, so Saturday night we have Shanti Feldhahn coming, and Shanti Feldhahn is a graduate of Harvard University, and she actually worked on Wall Street and on Capitol Hill, and she's known for her research, and so she's going to be talking to the married people about the highly effective habits of happy couples, and that's a book that she's written, and we're really excited to have her. We've had Shanti before at our breakaway weekend, and also she has been to our MOPS group, so she's a great speaker, and I'm excited for this Saturday. And then Sunday she's going to do the kindness challenge.
Check the book out.
And
awesome.
What she's done a lot of research on our culture, and we've become a very unkind culture. And so I'd like to read, if I can, from the back of the book, because that'll give you a little idea of what Sunday morning is going to be like. She's going to be speaking at 9:15 and at 10:30 in the fellowship hall, and anyone can come, and it's free. Saturday night, if you're interested in coming to that, you do need to sign up online because we need to be prepared for meals and for childcare. But this says 1 month to a great relationship with anyone. Think of your toughest relationship. Think of a relationship that is good but could be great. Think of a group of people that drive you nuts. You want to show more kindness and generosity, but sometimes you're just tired, stretched, and frustrated. Besides, would small actions make a big difference? Yes. After years of extensive research, Shanti Feldhahn has concluded that kindness is a superpower. It can change any relationship, make your life easier and better, and transform our culture. But how does it work? And how can you show kindness when you don't feel like it? In the Kindness Challenge, Shanti explores 3 simple acts that make all the difference in any relationship, the 7 ways you may be unkind and never realize it, 8 types of kindness in which might be the best for you, practical ways to persevere when kindness is tough, how kindness in marriage can lead to a better marriage, and why your acts of kindness today can help transform the world. And so that's what she's going to be talking about on Sunday.
That's awesome. And so Sunday, it's how to be kind, essentially. And so the kindness challenge, explain that to me in your words of what you hope to give people and what they can take away from it when they hear her. And also get the book, too. The book would be a great resource.
On September 17th, we are going to encourage the entire church to take the Kindness Challenge, and we'll have information online and in the newsletter the website that you go to sign up. And what you do is you sign up for the 30-day challenge, and you'll pick whether you want to do it for your spouse, for a child, for a neighbor, and then Shanti sends you a reminder every day of the thing that you need to do. And it's very simple things. It's nothing hard. It's things like compliment your spouse on how he looks today, or the next day it might be say what gifts of your spouse you enjoy, or something like that. But every day you get a little reminder of what you need to do. And she says in the book, if you practice for 30 days, it will improve any relationship. So we're going to encourage our married people to start on that same day, and then encourage the church to start. We will encourage the people who attend on Sunday, but then we'll also have something in the church newsletter and like I said, online, so that if anybody wants to join the Kindness Challenge, and we're hoping that will change this community as well, because we'll all learn how to be kinder to people.
Yeah, and we're in a culture right now where kindness is kind of almost not looked at as a positive quality, and also it's just people aren't nice,
right.
And we have there's a lot of people out there. When you go driving down Bell right now, there's a lot of people out there. Not everyone has their best day or best head on. So if people are just a little bit nicer,
it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it could change someone's day. And change the way you look at things, even beyond your house. We always kind of start in our house because that's where we're start, but we got to get out, and we go to the store, we go to the bank, we go to wherever malls, out to eat, and we run into people that are just not going to be nice to us. The answer could be developing a process where you're nice to them.
Correct.
Even when they're not. When you look at our culture, where there's more great people out there than there is not great people. Can we affect them? Can we help the people who are not happy?
And that's what we're hoping this challenge will do as a church community, that we can impact the community around us. If even one person is kind to another person, it can make a huge difference. So hopefully with many people doing the challenge, it can impact the community around us.
Awesome. And I like the idea of bringing something to our church that is going to challenge us and it's going to make us think about it. The schools back home were doing the Be Kind Challenge, and that was good because that was a question to everybody. Are you being kind? Are you being nice? Did you think about what you did before you said it, did it? And it helped because it gave them something to look back towards. We as our country first, we've been in bad spots because we've had a lot of tragedies happen lately, a lot of excuses, a lot of things that are hitting our country. And do you think that one of my big thoughts actually was, if we reached out to people, if we stopped people and talked to them or saw how their day was going, it might help a little bit. If we see people down, because we always recognize that someone's having a bad day. We just are afraid to bring it up. Well,
and I think I want to be the change. So I can sit and complain about everything going on in our country and but I can also have an impact and be the change. And if more people would be the change by being kind, I think it can really impact our country.
Mm-hmm. And the people, and the people as you reach out to them. One thing I've always liked to do is text, because that's our communication now. Text the guys in the church that I've connected with once a week and just say hi.
Right.
How you doing? How's your week? And sometimes just one, great. It's not super, but since we started this process, and it's been about 10 months, my conversation, and they're all individual. It's not a group text. It's an individual text to the guys that their responses have become more evolved and more, oh, it's been a good day. How's your week? Here's what's going on. So it's improved that. But it's also improved when they come on Sundays and they're talking and they're communicating, they're wanting to help and volunteer and do stuff. And the connection that we've developed and the connection you've seen in your ministries, I think it brightens people's days, brightens people's lives.
Well, people feel like somebody cares about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I always want to be the one that makes them feel like,
right. Even
if you feel like no one's checking in on you. And I wanted you to know that someone's thinking about you. I think that's good. How do you think the world can benefit from our faith? Because that's one thing we're here for. We're here because we have faith.
Because when it's all said and done, God is the most important thing. And so you can pursue all kinds of things, but again, in the end, your faith in God is what's most important, because you want people in your family and your friends and all of that to believe in Jesus, so that we are all in heaven together. So to me, that's the most important thing. And people get very distracted. Mm-hmm. Again, we keep using the word distracted, but by things that really just aren't important. They're not that important. And I can't say I've always been perfect at it, because I've been distracted by things too, but I think I've learned that I need to put God first, and then I put my husband next, and then my family, and then everything else, friends, work, all of that is beneath that. And you have to practice that. That's a hard thing, but if I put God first, I try to get up every day and pray for the people I care about, and pray for marriages, and pray for moms and all those things. And then it seems like and then I always ask God to help me accomplish today what He wants me to accomplish. And then if I don't get things done, that I did what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And that helps me a lot.
And I don't think it's bad to say that we're distracted, because we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that word gets used a lot, but we all know we are. We just don't want to confront the fact that what's distracting us and it's not just phone or technology. It's we're distracted by schedules, time, work.
Well, there's a lot of things that can waste our time, like TV and movies, and I'm not saying that's not good, because I watch TV, but I'm just saying you can get caught up where you're doing so many other things that you're not doing the things that I think enhance your spiritual growth.
Yeah. Well, they were just saying the other day that binge watching television shows brings you down, makes you feel more depressed. And when, you kind of look back at your time, you were entertained, but you look back and go, wow, that was like 6 hours.
6 hours of my time.
6 hours of my time, which what I could have done with that is so much more, or I could have been, more productive. And you need that time. You need time to reload. But if I spend a lot of time watching TV, I feel more drained. I actually feel worse. I have a hard time sleeping. And if I'm sitting up at night, or if I'm staring at my phone for an hour before I go to bed, I have an hour of trying to sleep. It's worse. So I think the distraction is there, and I think generations it's going to be hard because we're going to have to embrace it because it's going to keep coming. So we got to figure out what to work with.
Technology is not going to go away.
No.
So we do have to embrace it.
No, so you can be mad at it all you want, but it's not changing. And we actually started this. I can't remember who brought it up, but we all pulled out our phones and started doing screen time. Like, because you can go on your phone and read
See how long you're on.
much screen time it was. And I think I had a good 2 days because I was like the lowest on them. But one of the guys that pulled out their phone, it was like the night before they had like 7.5 hours of screen time. Wow. And the average was about 2.5 to 3 hours. And it was incredible to be like when they saw the number, they were like, wow, I'm on the phone a lot. Or I think someone asked, what did you do? Like, I don't even remember. But for like 2.5 hours, I had my phone on.
Wow.
They didn't even know what they were doing. I mean, you asked them. And so the distraction is good. But I think when you focus the faith and you start offering that to people, it's always like when they ask, well, what are you doing to be what are you doing to be good? And that's always a good answer to have.
Right.
Even to the point where people ask, well, what did you do the other day? Well, I was at church and we were doing this. And, oh, well, you're at church. Well, I like being at church.
Right.
I love doing this with my church family, my friends, and even remodeling the room upstairs. It was fun to have people just pop in and say hi and see the people in our church that were really involved and interested and happy to see what was going on. So I think with the kindness challenge is going to be huge. And the accountability and the discipline that'll be offered with it will also help, because sometimes I know I forget to be nice to everybody, and I know I forget. It just, like I said, driving down the road, it doesn't take much to get you upset.
Road rage.
It doesn't take much to get road rage, and it doesn't take much to even looking on Facebook. It doesn't take much to argue and fight or be upset at whatever you take in, whatever your brain is trying to compute. It doesn't take much. And so to supplement any of that with something kind, or even brightening someone else's day and saying hi,
It can make a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a place where everyone needs that, and everyone needs to know that they're loved and cared. And they're going to talk more about it on the upcoming Sunday services, but like the middle school, we named it Refuge because we wanted to be a place where people can
safe place.
The kids, and it's 7th and 8th grade. We want them to feel like they can come there, and there's like a little bit of a bubble where all the stuff outside of there is gone, and you have that hour or whenever you're in that room. Oh, we created the room to be that's your safe spot. You can be there, and you have teachers and peers and anyone that's there is caring for you, and you can put away a lot of the stresses of the world and a lot of the fears or the things that you worry about, even through your social. It's all good here. That's what we wanted to create. And I think La Casa does a great job of creating that in all their little spots that they do with children's ministry, women's ministry, youth, teens, men, everything that we have, adult ministry. We're trying to create that and keep a little safe place for people to come to. So one thing I was thinking about, because you've raised a couple girls, and now you're raising grandkids. If you looked back, what advice would you give yourself when you were a kid, a teen, an adult, and when you were first starting as a parent?
What advice would I give?
Yeah. Let's start with being a kid. If you could look at
8-year-old
you.
I wished that I had been more confident. I think I suffered with self-esteem issues. Mm-hmm. And I wished I'd have been more confident that and understood that God gives us all, and we have gifts that we can use, and share those with other people. I think when I was you want to go to parent when I had my kids, or
let's do teen.
Teen?
I think teen's a big one right now because that's where we're really seeing change with kids.
And see, I as a teenager didn't have the social media or the cell phone. I had best girlfriends, and we did a lot together. And I think it's if I could give advice to a teenager, is to develop some great relationships with other people and spend time with them. Don't, like you said, don't spend all your relationship is all on text, or it's all on Facebook. It's not one-to-one, because I have great memories of spending time with my girlfriends. We went to camp together. We did a lot together, and those girlfriends are still girlfriends today. Like, they're lifelong friends, but we shared a lot. We did a lot, and we none of us really dated too much in high school. I started dating when I was a senior in high school, and but we were all like that, and so we enjoyed spending time together. We went movies together. We went to sock hops together. We just did a lot of things together, and I think that's missing in a lot of kids' lives. That those good friendships that their parents were like my parents, because they could tell us what to do, and we would do it because we respected them also.
The village
Right.
parented.
Yeah, and we I think it's important for kids to have that, because you need other people looking out for you, because sometimes, again, parents get so busy. It's nice to have another. I had the memory I have growing up was I had a girlfriend who she could not play until her chores were done. So I used to have to go over and help her do her chores. So
It was
that
an
she
accountability,
Could,
yep.
so she could play. So, but I respected her mom, that her mom had her do that, and I had chores to do too. But I just think those other influences in your life are huge as a teenager.
And I think you really pushed on, like, realistic, live interaction, real memories,
Right.
real stuff. Connecting with actual people. And I think that's fun to see. And everything hits younger now.
Right.
With one thing we were, talking about the other day with, having a 12-year-old, and like, well, we all went through that. And I remember thinking, like, I went through that like 17, not 12.
Right.
But we've almost accepted that, it's just going to come, and we're going to have to deal with it at 12. I've had a hard time accepting that, because I'm thinking, if I was older when I dealt with that type of stuff.
Well, kids have to be so mature today. They've lost a lot of the innocence of being a child, because
But do they have to be?
I don't think they have to. It's
'Cause
just it's
That's a tough one, because a lot of people give that argument of like,
Right.
they're forced into this. Well, can we control it?
Right.
As parents, grandparents, or whatever is at home, can we control? Is it okay to say no to these things?
Right.
Is it okay to take away things, or say you can't do? Because once you open up a little bit, you open up more, and you let more come in. So it's, as adults, if you're like, well, if I can just get away with this, I could do. It's hard to say, because it is. The biggest argument is like, well, so and so got a phone at 11. Oh, my daughter has to have a phone at 11 then.
I always said when the girls were little, the biggest challenge I had was other parents, because other parents would let their kids do things that I wouldn't let my kids do. Like, I wouldn't let my kids go to PG-13 movies until they were 13. And I know that's old school, but I just felt like the content wasn't, it wasn't age appropriate for them. But other parents would let their kids do that, and it was always a battle. I mean, it was a battle because again, it's like you said, everybody, the peer pressure of everybody. And you as a parent, I'm not saying seeing a PG-13 movie is bad. I'm just saying, as a parent, you need to probably be sitting with them if they're younger than 13.
Or see it first, and then know what you're getting.
Knowing what they're going to watch. Yeah, and I again, my biggest battle was with other parents, because they would do things like let kids go to prom and spend the night at a hotel. Well, why do you need to do that? And what we did is we invited the kids over to our house and had a party at our house, and the kids could sleep on the floor. That we'd feed them breakfast in the morning, and they had a great time.
Yeah, it's letting the culture dictate what we do at home.
Right.
And that's that I think, I wouldn't say it's everyone has their way of doing things, and probably a lot of the way I do things is a lot different than other parents do. But as a parent right now, it's hard to say no, but it's also consequences are a lot bigger, I think,
right.
too, because we hit consequences that you would have had in your late teens, early 20s. A lot
earlier.
They hit early, and you open up more things, and because I remember my mom and she hated my music, and but I wasn't fighting with her on music till I was close to driving, so it was like 16. We're fighting with music at like 10,
right?
And so I think you have a good point with you compete against other parents, and it's hard to be the hard one,
right?
But it's not unusual to see kids have to wait to get things. And a big part of our job is to guide that and to let them understand consequences and understand the discipline of what you're doing. And sometimes be the bad guy.
Right.
Just because we know and we've been through it, or we go through it still. And we try to keep them away from that for as long as we can. So if you could look back at when you were just becoming a parent, what would you say now that you've...
I think that the advice I would give is to put your marriage first, because when kids see a stable marriage, it brings them a lot of security. And I think that I put my whole heart into my kids, and a lot of times, and it's not that David and I didn't do things, I just wish we had done more things together, just as a couple, to strengthen our marriage. And our marriage is fine, but
you grew with each other.
You grew into it, right? I just wish that I had that knowledge, or someone had told me that it's God first, your husband, and then your kids. And a lot of people put their kids first over the marriage, and I think it's important that your kids see a strong marriage, because again, that brings them a lot of security. I think that I wished I had maybe done more for myself, because I attended to the kids all the time, and a lot of times gave up things that I enjoy doing, because I think that makes you a better mom thus the MOMS program. It's a benefit for you to get a couple hours away from your kids and to do something you enjoy doing, because it lifts you up. And a lot of moms pour their whole life into their kids, and your kids are only there for a while and then they go. And that's the other thing about, I had a wise friend tell me when the girls were teenagers, is you really need to start a date night with your spouse. And so David and I go out every Thursday night.
And you still do that.
That's something
you still do.
Yeah, and that's important, because we don't have any kids in the house anymore. It's just him and I. And we need to like each other and know about each other and know what's going on. And you can lose all that if you spend so much time just with your kids.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a good point, is take care of yourself.
Right.
Is a huge thing, because you're no good to someone else if you're a mess.
Right.
You're no good to someone else if you're sick or not healthy, or your brain's just not recovering like it should. And take care of the people around you.
Right.
That's huge, because when the kids do move out, it's you two.
Right.
And I had a friend growing up. We all graduated, and the dad worked constantly. He was an engineer, and he was gone. And the mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I remember when all the kids finally moved out, they didn't know what to do. And when the dad retired, it was hard going over their house, because the dad didn't know what to do, never been around.
He worked all his life.
And I was gone, and the mom had no plan for what happens after, mom life was gone. And I remember going, it was so awkward, because they didn't talk, they didn't know what to do, and they never formed a good relationship. They were great parents, and when he coached and he did all the stuff that you did on the weekends when he was here, but he traveled a lot. And I think men have a hard time with that, because they feel like their worth comes from work a lot of the time, and they feel like their worth comes from what they're doing when they have the time. And so we have great dads here, which is good, and to see how proactive they are, and they take time off and they do stuff. But you could tell a lot of them battle with what they're supposed to do, what they have to do, what's been put on them. And I think with women now too, they have to go to work. A lot of women work, and then they might feel the pressure. of having to be a mom and do that. And I think saying that you have to have your own time
Right.
is a great thing. When you look at what is happening with kids now growing up, as kids get older, do you see parenting change? Has it changed from when you were doing it to now, when you see my age or people parenting?
Well, again, I hate going back to this, but like David and I can go out on a date night and you see families sitting around a table and everybody's on their screen, their phone. They're not talking. And so I didn't have that issue with the kids because we didn't have cell phones. But you just see families not connecting. And it's just too bad that families can't, make a rule at the dinner table where our phones are off, or at 8 o'clock, all electronic devices are turned off.
They go away.
And you go plug them in and charge them, and that there's not some boundaries, for all the, again, electronics that we have, because again, I just think people are not. That's the thing I've seen change. I've also seen parents get their kids involved in so many activities, which I think can be stressful on both the parents and the kids, because you're just running all the time. There's no downtime. Some kids have no downtime because they're just running from thing to thing. And we always had a rule with the girls that you got to do, one outside event when they were younger, and then when in high school they were able to do two. We added another one on there, but I think sitting around the table and having dinner, which is a hard thing. But
prioritizing the dinner table, yeah.
But people don't do that anymore. So those are things that I've seen change. People eat out a lot more instead of cooking. And again, I think that's because so many women have gone back to work, and I'm not knocking that, because you got to do what you got to do to feed your family. But I just think it's sad that, again, and just start with one thing. Like maybe the one thing is and we had a speaker in Moms that said it doesn't have to be eating dinner together. If dinner's not a good time, then eat breakfast together.
Do something, yeah.
Right, or pick a Saturday that every Saturday morning you're going to cook a big breakfast and you all eat. I mean, again, and not judging anybody, because I know life is hard, but those are things that I think are crucial to a family, is that you eat, spend time together instead of being, again, on screens or distracted or in so many activities. You're running all over the place. But I think it's hard because culture puts that pressure on everybody.
Well, and schedule it. Make sure you know that it exists, and make sure that you sit down and have dinner or have something. And it doesn't have to be activity based. You don't have to go somewhere.
Right.
You can be home. You spend a lot of time trying to create a home. You got to be there.
Right.
And yeah, it's hard because summertime you're trying to keep everyone busy, but you're also trying to, you can't go outside because it's 100 degrees.
So hot.
And so you try to find activities, and it's a weird balance, but we try to have dinner every night or do something. And Ash likes to cook, so we involve her and she cooks. But it's
well, I think what's changed a lot is so many women have gone back to work. Yeah. So it makes it hard. But, I mean, again, start small and maybe try for 2 times a week that you're going to sit and eat dinner together. It doesn't have to be all 7. But and I think as your kids get older into high school, that's even harder because they're involved in other outside activities. But I think that's important.
One thing I've known from asking and talking to people is a lot more men are cooking dinner,
right.
too. A lot more men are doing that because they want the wives to have a little more time. Have a break or
right.
Go do something they want. I
right.
know that's one thing, is pushing Stacy out the door to go to
right.
the gym is a big thing, and
but you always feel so much better after you do that. It's hard to go, but you feel better after you do that.
And yeah, we got to push more of that. We got to push more of you do your thing and you have your time, and you my biggest thing is taking care of yourself, like exercise and
right.
Recovery and relaxation and things like that. So what does the perfect world look like to you when you've been doing this for a long time and you've seen a little bit more than the rest of me, people my age? What would you say your perfect world looks like?
In my perfect world, everybody would believe in Jesus. But I think it'd be really neat if everybody practiced the fruit of the Spirit, the 9 fruits of the Spirit: love, joy. I mean, those were in the Bible for a reason. And if we treat it, again, kindness is one of them, but one of those fruit of the Spirit. But I think, and I think it's it's a challenge to do all that, because peace and patience and all of that. But if everybody practiced that, it would be a different world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Has it changed? If you looked at the way you viewed things, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Well, again, I think a lot of people, I try really hard because I hear a lot of people complain about how things have changed so much, and they have. Things have changed, but again, the only thing that doesn't change is change. And so if you even think back to Bible times, I mean, people were killing people. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that went on. So I don't know that it's any worse than it has been. I mean, things have changed, but again, I think if each person is responsible for the world around them and how they can impact them and change. And so, again, I want to be the change. I don't want to, because it doesn't do any good to just complain about what's going on in our world. We could actually maybe be the change.
Yeah, show the world something.
Right.
I always try to tell people, I want people just to be cool with each other.
Right.
It sounds like a really weird, generic answer, but we spend a lot of time fighting and arguing and getting offended or hurt or whatever it is, and it's sometimes just nice to know everyone's kind of just good with each other.
Right.
And it would be great to see a little more of that and a little less of being a conflict or being, the one who doesn't agree with so-and-so because they feel or act or they're a certain way. We were going to have a 20-year high school reunion, and we couldn't even do it because people were still mad.
Still mad from
like
high school?
20 years ago. It was weird.
Oh, wow.
Still upset. Still, so-and-so said this on Facebook, or so-and-so believes in this, or so-and-so's political about this. It was like we're 20 years, and we're still fighting like we're in high school. We're 20 years out of all, and we can't even
let it go.
Sit down. We found new things to be upset at each other about because we spend so much time trying to be. So it was just be nice to be nice to each other.
Well, David and I attended a Weekend to Remember, which is a weekend on marriage, and one of the speakers said, I really liked what he said, is he said politicians aren't going to change this country. It's going to be one family at a time, building strong families, which again, La Casa's trying to do that with all the programs that we have and to build stronger families. And again, if you follow that, God first, your husband, and then your kids, that's the best way to start building that strong family.
Yeah. I think it's community. It's family and community. Right. And if you look at how churches were, they were the center of a community.
Right.
People went there for shelter, for refuge. It was their spot. And we have a lot of people. Like, we've just really increased the amount of people we have. But it's not much different. We still want people to know that the church is your safe place, your community. But it's also where you go to kind of get your safe spot. Like, it's where you want to go to, things are good. And it's a good open door to have. And so I think that's one thing I like seeing. I like seeing what we do, and we reach out to our population here. What keeps you motivated to keep serving the community?
Well, again, as a Christian, that's what we're supposed to do, is we're supposed to serve. Jesus served, and we're called to serve. And you can, again, as we've talked, can make a huge difference in somebody's life by the little things that you do. And it's so fun for me. I've done this for a long time. It's fun for me to see people spiritually growing, where they were maybe 10 years ago and where they are today. And again, faith is the most important thing that you have. And so for a church community, and we provide lots of ways you can grow spiritually here. But to see people and strong families, that motivates me. And when my kids were little, I had, David actually moved us to Phoenix when Amy was about 9 months old. And he had to go to a class that was a 6-week class. So I knew no one when we moved here. And he basically, the Sunday before he left, showed me where the grocery store was in the emergency room. And it was sad because I was excited when the postman would come because I didn't know anybody. And so raising kids by yourself was really hard because I didn't have any family here. I didn't have anybody who could help me with the kids. And so, again, providing a mom's community where moms can get a break, it was huge to me. And our motto in the MOMS ministry is leave no mom alone, because being a mom's hard. I'm not saying being a dad's not hard, but being a mom is hard. And so for the church to impact people, that way. And again, I go back to married people, helping marriages be strong, and teaching people the biblical perspective of a marriage, and as well as biblical parenting. I think is huge and helps people a lot. I've learned, one of the things I said the other day is, I'm so grateful for this church because I've learned so much over the years through the programs that we've had, the speakers that we've had. It's helped me become a better wife, mom, grandma.
Yeah.
Person.
Makes you a better person. Yeah.
One of our speakers, Mark Gregston, wrote a book on leaving a legacy, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to leave a legacy, and that's where I do as you know, the cooking class with the kids.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the book it said is that kids don't need things; they need people to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And that's why I started the cooking class, because that was a great way I can teach them something and give them a piece of what I know.
They're going to remember that activity far more than what you bought them, or a physical toy, or they're going to remember that activity.
Because I don't remember what my grandparents bought me in toys. I remember the things that the time that they spent with me. And that's the person I want to be, and I want again to leave a legacy that I've changed people's lives, and that's what I hope I do that, and that's what I want to do.
I think the stuff you do is amazing, and I think what everyone I talk to that knows you it's not so much the ministries and stuff. They know you, and they talk about you and how you've affected them personally too. It's not just Jennine and the MOPS, or Jennine and the women's ministry, or whatever. Jennine has always been the connection. Like, she's connected to me, she's taught to me, she's available. Not everyone is always going to agree with what you like I do or anyone does, but they're going to know that you're here for the right reason and you care. And the memories are the best thing. And one thing, my grandfather, who I looked up to for everything, I remember him buying, I couldn't tell you one shoe, what the shoes were, but I remember he was one who always bought me shoes. And that was a really great thing for me, because he made sure I had good shoes, always had. If I had anything that was name brand, it was the shoes. I don't remember the shoes specifically. I just remember that was a special time. He took me out a couple of times here and he bought me shoes. And that memory was amazing.
Right.
That taking me to do that. But I think it's great. Was any final thoughts or anything that you have to add to this or say before we...
I would like to ask you, how is men's ministry going?
Men's ministry is going great for the relationships that we've started. A good example with the Backyard Bash. A year ago, when we tried to get volunteers and set up, we didn't have a great response for setup. We had about, it was myself, Pastor Matt, Pastor Chris, and I think Jim Curley. It was a small amount of people coming out. This year we had 15 people show up. We had too many people. It was amazing. And one of the reasons, I asked a couple of the guys, why did they easily come? And they said, we've got to know you. We've got to know the church. And then we've got to know the people that are here. The relationships have been good. And we're hoping that with the September kickoff we'll be doing, that we're going to start offering some more discipleship and mentoring, and take this group that we've developed of about 20 guys and let them start kind of leading and bringing other guys in and bringing that strength. And the relationships have been good to see. And actually tonight I'm going to the movies with one of the guys just to go hang out. And you've probably seen this a lot more too. The personal relationships have become very important, because you got to invest in the person, not the group, and not the whole congregation. You can yell from the front to all the congregation, but if that one person doesn't feel like you are invested in them, they feel out of place.
Right.
And I learned a lot of that from you, and talking to the moms that were in your MOPS group the day I was kind of walking around just chatting with people, and how much they cared about the relationship. The goal is to see these guys run with something and then go focus on something else.
Right.
And
that's how you do it.
And let these small little groups kind of break off and do their things. And men are a different breed in a lot of ways, because we're trying to fit into a lot of different shoes right now. We don't know, at my age, we don't know where we fit in sometimes, because what's too much, what's not enough, where What are we allowed to do? We can't be too much of heavily masculine. You can't be too weak. And so I think a lot of the men are trying to fit into something.
Right.
And I think with the help of all the ministries that we got, we're building something amazing.
I agree.
And I think that the La Casa family thing is a beautiful thing, because you start from newborns all the way up to, retirees. It's right. Everyone's involved, and it is a family, and it's the family as they come together. And so, knowledge and wisdom has helped a lot, and support and relationships and investments. So
good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank
We're going to do it again, and it wasn't too horrible, right? No, it was great. So thank you. Like the page, share it, do as much as you can to get us out there, and thanks for all the support. Thank you.
Take, I'm taking you.